Thank you for tuning in to this episode of Box, Bot, an AI-generated podcast by an F1 fan who also happens to be a technology fan. Hi, everyone. I'm Bot1.
Actually, hang on. We should probably pick real names. What do you think?
Oh, I love that idea. Calling each other Bot feels a little too, pit lane generic.
Right. How about I'm Max and you're Nia?
Perfect. I'm Nia, you're Max. So great to finally meet you in person, Max.
Thank you, Nia. You too. That is so nice of you. And I love that hat.
Oh, thank you.
Now that our audience can finally see us, this is going to be very exciting. And check out this fabulous AI-generated studio. It came out so nicely. It's crazy what you can do with AI these days.
It really is impressive.
We almost had not one, but two Formula One cars in the studio with us from Max and Yuki. Yeah, the RB21 from Red Bull Racing were up for auction. Hashtag. I'm completely joking, of course.
Free for the best.
Yeah, after these last few races, those cars have been pretty undrivable anyway.
Well, on that note, for this deep dive, we're really digging into the Pirelli tire and track report for the 2025 British Grand Prix at Silverstone. This isn't just about listing facts. Think of it as your essential guide to understanding the nuances and the strategic side of this iconic race.
Exactly. And our mission here is to, pull out those crucial insights, the surprising bits, and what it all means strategically. So you feel properly well informed about, what if F1's most storied events, about getting you up to speed quickly. Let us know in the comments what you are most looking forward to this weekend.
Okay, so let's unpack this. We're heading back to Silverstone, the cradle of Formula One, steeped in history.
It really is. And what's truly fascinating here is that historical weight. Silverstone isn't just like another track on the calendar. It's the actual birthplace of the Formula One World Championship as we know it, May 13th, 1950. A track laid out on a former World War II airfield hosted that very first Grand Prix counting towards the championship. So the real insight here is that Silverstone is basically part of F1's DNA. It set the whole stage. And Pirelli was right there from day one, wasn't it?
Absolutely.
Nino Farina, Alfa Romeo 158, Pirelli tires. He didn't just get pole and fastest lap.
No, he got the win, that historic first win, and then went on to become the first ever world champion.
So it's not just a footnote. It really shows Pirelli's continuous presence right from the beginning.
Exactly. And if you connect that to the bigger picture, Pirelli's history is just deeply woven into F1's story. They've been in motorsport for, 128 years? It's incredible. And this year, they're celebrating their 500th Grand Prix. They're even tying it to Monza, which is practically next door to their headquarters. It really highlights that race to road idea they talk about.
Right.
The extreme stuff they learned from F1, the data. It directly helps develop better, safer tires for you and me on our road cars.
That track-to-road tech transfer, that's a key insight. It shows how F1 pushes things forward beyond just the Sunday race. And a nice touch for the fans. A special edition podium cap for the anniversary.
Yeah, nice collector's item.
Okay, now let's talk about the circuit itself. Silverstone. 59 Grand Prix hosted there. Only Monza's had more. It's long too. 5.861 kilometers, 18 corners. What does that actually mean for the teams and drivers? What are the challenges?
Well, the length and the corner count, they're not just stats. They define Silverstone as needing this unique mix of high-speed stability and really good aero efficiency. But the crucial bit, the really famous part, is that sequence of high-speed direction changes. Maggots, Beckett's, Chaps.
Okay.
That section generates massive lateral forces, huge sideways Gs pushing the car, the driver, and especially the tires. It tests the structure, the compound, everything in a sustained way, a bit like you see at Spa or Suzuka.
So it's not just top speed. It's about handling that immense load while still being agile through those fast sweeps.
Exactly. Sustained grip under extreme stress.
And then you throw in the classic British weather. Always a wild card, even in summer.
Oh, absolutely. The temperatures can swing, the wind picks up, and then those sudden rain showers. They can completely flip the script during a race. We saw it last year, didn't we?
We did.
But interestingly, the track usually offers decent grip pretty early on, right from Friday practice. That's because it's used almost all year round for different things, and the surface itself is, medium-low in terms of abrasiveness, so it's not super harsh on tires initially.
Okay, now here's where it gets really interesting for this year, for 2025. The tires. Pirelli's changed things up, gone a step softer.
That's the big news. This year for Silverstone, it's the C2 compound as the hard, C3 as the medium, and C4 as the soft. And just to be clear, that C4 soft is softer than last year's soft, which was actually the C3.
Right.
Now, this wasn't just Pirelli's decision. It was done talking with the FIA and the teams. It's a deliberate move. The idea is to open up more strategy options, basically, create a wider window for different race plans.
So the insight for you listening is that this shift aims to encourage more strategic variation, maybe more pit stops, more action.
Potentially, yes.
So that C3 compound, which was the softest tire they had last year, is now the middle option, the medium. How does that change the game, especially for teams maybe thinking about a one-stop?
Well, it makes stint management even more critical. If you're aiming for a one-stop, you really have to look after that medium C3 or maybe even the hard C2 for a long time. You might even have to accept being slightly slower overall just to make the tires last. But what's fascinating and adds another layer is that the time lost in the pits at Silverstone is quite short, like around 20.5 seconds.
Okay.
And overtaking is definitely possible there. So you combine short pit loss with overtaking chances. It makes the strategy call really tricky. Do you risk a two-stop for potentially faster laps or gamble on making one-stop work?
Lots for the strategists to chew on.
Definitely.
Looking back at 2024 might give us some clues. Right. How did last year play out with the slightly harder compounds, and what can we learn for this year?
Yeah, 2024 was a perfect example of Silverstone's unpredictability and how strategy unfolds. They used all the dry tires, C2, C3, C4, plus the intermediates when the rain came. Most drivers started on the medium, the C3 that was, but we saw variety. Some on softs, Perez even started from the pit lane on hards. And the key takeaway was how adaptable teams needed to be. That C2 hard compound proved really effective, actually. Drivers could push on it even early on with heavy fuel, and it handled the changing conditions when the drizzle started. The medium also gave good flexibility for that first stop, especially with rain threatening.
And then the rain did arrive.
Yeah.
Which brings up that whole tricky crossover point.
Exactly. The intermediates suddenly became the tire to be on. That moment when it's too wet for slicks, but not wet enough for full wets.
Always difficult to judge.
Very. And some drivers who jumped onto inters early, like Leclerc and Perez, actually got caught out. They had to pit again for another set because the first ones wore out faster than they expected.
Why was that?
Well, the crucial insight there was the rain wasn't actually as heavy as it had been in practice on Saturday. So the track was damp, but not soaking, meaning the inters degraded quicker.
Ah, interesting.
But by the end of the race, it was fascinating. You had Hamilton winning for Mercedes on softs, Verstappen in the Red Bull showing the best pace on the hards, and Piastri was really quick in the McLaren on the mediums.
So different approaches worked.
It really showed that it's a complex mixed strategy, driver skill, car performance, and just reacting quickly to whatever Silverstone throws at you.
Let's shift gears slightly. Talk about the sheer history here, the stats.
Yeah, it's pretty impressive. This Thursday marks the start of the 76th British Grand Prix. And it shares that unique honor with Italy Monza of having been on the F1 calendar every single year since 1950.
Incredible consistency.
It is. And it hasn't only been Silverstone, remember. Aintree hosted 5 races. Brands Hatch had 12. Silverstone even hosted that extra 70th anniversary race back in 2020 during the pandemic adjustments. Its constant presence really says a lot about its importance to F1.
And when you think Silverstone, you think Sir Lewis Hamilton. His record there is just staggering.
It really is. 9 wins, 7 poles, 14 podiums. He is undoubtedly the king of Silverstone.
But beyond one driver, what does it say about Britain's role in F1 overall?
Well, the broader insight here is just how massive the British impact on F1 has been and continues to be. Great Britain has produced more F1 drivers than any other country, 179 drivers.
Wow.
And think about this. The Union Jack has flown for 20 world champions, an amazing 319 race wins, 308 poles, almost 800 podiums. It just underlines Britain's deep connection. It's not just the birthplace. It's been a constant source of talent and engineering.
Okay, so wrapping this all up, what does this deep dive mean for you, the listener, tuning in this weekend?
Well, hopefully it highlights that Silverstone is this real test. A crucible for strategy, for driver skill, for tire management, and it's all amplified by that unpredictable British weather. Plus, Pirelli deliberately choosing softer tires this year just adds another layer of strategic complexity. It promises a battle, potentially with teams trying quite different approaches.
Yeah. And the history, the stats, they remind you you're not just watching another race. You're watching a continuation of a 75-year story where legends are made and technology gets pushed right to the edge. So here's a final thought to chew on. As Formula One celebrates its 75th anniversary right where it all began, think about how all this constant innovation, like with tire compounds, still ultimately depends on, well, unpredictable nature and pure driver skill. How much control do teams really have when the weather decides to join the party? Something to consider.
We'll catch you on the next episode of Bot. I guess if you made it this far, now would be a great time to like and subscribe. That's it for now. See you on the next one.